Galadriel is the reason why Sauron was able to come back.
No.
She saved his life. She decided that the land of the Undying wasn't good enough for her because
no, that is
her
no
king.
that is
She went
Ring
to
of
her
Power.
king.
That is Ring of Power law. That is Ring of Power law.
No. She went to her king to say that the rise of Sauron is coming back, and her king dismissed her.
All right,
and
that's odd.
And in order to cover it up and not cause panic amongst the people, they blessed her with going to the land of Undying, which is where elves go to rest and live immortal with their gods and the creators of
And you know how that turned out
And
for Ring of Power, right?
She abandoned that offer of peace and decided to dive off into the sea.
All right.
Now,
then all right, and
the bullshit that Ring of Power did was she spent 3 days swimming in the middle of the ocean.
All right, and you know what else?
But if it wasn't for her encounter with Sauron, who was exiled from Mordor, exiled from his previous crown, he was a man from the east, like the Haradrim. They were known as exiles. He had the branding mark and all of that because he was exiled. He was mocked, he was humiliated, and he was cast out of Mordor and out of the Dark Lord perspective. But Galadriel met him, saved his fucking ass, brought him back to the mainland, and then defended his ass until she later realized who the fuck he was. And this was after the first 3 rings of power were created that she then realized who the fuck he was.
Alright, so by the show logic, if Galadriel have just go to the land of the elf, Sauron would have died.
Yes, Sauron would been stuck at ocean and would probably been eaten by a giant fucking whale monster.
Yes, and by that logic, the show actually undermines itself because the entire point of the show is that Galadriel, going into an adventurous family. But because she did, she now accelerate the destruction of the Middle Earth.
Well, so Galadriel was sent on a scouting trip originally, and the scouting trip was pretty much just to eliminate the remainder of the orcs that were within the area. She took her party further along and didn't make contact with her people, and her people thought she was dead. So she took her people further into like a snowy area and evidence that the rise of Sauron was coming back. And she wanted to go forward, but her people decided to say mutiny and say, fuck you, we're going back home. We're tired of this. We want to go. We're going back home. And she said, no, we got to continue. We got to continue because if we continue, we can fight Sauron. We can eliminate him, blah, 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 blah. And no. So her people said, no, fuck you. We're going back home. We're going to go tell the king everything that happened. The king gave them pretty much the Medal of Honor, said, hey, thank you for your time, your peace. We're going to send you back to, the land of Undying, etc., etc. Galadriel was just like, oh, this is such an amazing thing, but wait! I'm obsessed with Sauron. I must stop him. And
in her obsession, she unleashed Sauron. That is not that is not a writing style I would expect from Tolkien. That's kind of retardation I expect from the modern day.
Peter Jackson.
No, the Peter Jackson is fine.
But he didn't fully. He left things out of the book.
All right. So the 20-page of
and all.
No. I do not need the 20-page of photo describing his feet. All right. Tolkien have an obsession with Hobbit's feet. Let's not forget about that. All right. I do not want a 30 minutes section of let's say Peter Jackson describing photo feet.
What about Tom Bardolli, the fucking most overpowered wizard that fucking can't exist out of his own fucking forest? He could have just held on to the fucking ring.
Yeah.
You would never get corrupted by it. You just have the Ring of Peace. Have it in the fucking Ring of Power in the middle of this forest, and you never
Yeah,
gonna live
but
and
it
fight.
also where the Urukai would sooner or later destroy the forest and have the ring sooner or later.
Actually, Tom was actually one of the. He was stronger than Sauron and Gandalf combined.
It's something I would expect, but it's kind of like
He was the most overpowered character in the entire fucking Middle Earth at that time in the Third Age.
perfection.
But Peter Jackson was like, yeah.
All right, that would have been a really boring story, you know.
I'm not gonna go with that.
Yeah, that would be a very boring story. Kind of like how boring it is, you know, what you have Galadriel say Sauron, and pretty much
But
do Middle Earth.
no other film after The Lord of the Rings has ever received a large amount of Grammy rewards, like Lord of the Rings has. No other film has received more Grammys than Lord of the Rings. Not even The Hobbit.
Yeah, and you know why?
But Rings of Power.
No, Ring of Power, pretty much an industry plan. Do you know how much money they poured into that thing? How much money you think just been paid to just buy you some Grammy?
Look at Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. They spent 5 years over in New Zealand making 3 movies.
Yeah, and
Same was done with The Hobbit. Like,
and how much money was used to make the free Lord of the Ring?
back in the day,
Like I will tell you, 250 mil. Yeah, 250 mil, kind of. And would you know each season of Lord of the Ring costs? Oh wait, no, Ring of Power costs 280 mil. Money, the amount of budget does not equal quality. That is the main point.
So Lord of the Rings trilogy produced a budget of 281 million and then made over $3 billion worldwide.
And how much does each season of a Ring of Power cost? It's gonna be upsetting for you, I know, but you need to learn this.
And then The Hobbit produced a budget of 745 million and made a 2.9 billion worldwide.
So like, what is it? Half? So they what? Around. You need to also take in the 30%, like a movie budget, and then half that for marketing as well.
The Ring of Power. The first season costed around 465 million.
And did you see any kind of quality that is comparable to the film? When you watch the show, do you feel like it's actually a high quality show or just a trash TV that on a budget?
Originally, I didn't like. When I saw a fucking black elf and a black dwarf, I was like, "Fuck that." But then I got really fucking bored. I got really fucking bored one day, and I was like, "I'm gonna go watch Rings of Power."
And Shadow, you got brainwashed as well. I can't believe it. You got so easily brainwashed.
No, it was just so I didn't. So with the dark elf, I didn't see him as a dark elf. I saw him as a person who was like, this was me after the military. I saw this man as a respectful soldier. He was doing what he needed to do as a soldier. I didn't see him for his color. I just saw him as a man of arms, pretty much. And then the black dwarf. After a while, I didn't see her as, a black person. I didn't see her as a person of color. I saw her as a mother, a supporter, as a person, who was there to provide mutual support for her husband, who was digging a goddamn cave for fucking, I forget what it wasn't adamantium.
Her husband dig up let's see, the thing that make it so the elf would exterminate the dwarf for. because the elf in the show need let's see, adamantium to survive for some reason, and the dwarf dig up the
I don't think
reason
it was
why.
adamantium.
Or is it let's see, what is it? It's something like that. Adamantium, blackmium, or something like that.
Maybe orcdorm.
Orichalc? No, not orichalcum. Mithril? Yeah, mithril. Right, mithril.
Yeah, mithril.
Mithril is elf metal.
Non-existing metal in the world.
Yep, and because he dig that up, now the elf is gonna have to exterminate the dwarf for the material. You know, kind of thing Tolkien would say about unity in the face of the Dark Lord. You know, that's kind of weird, but you know. It's
So
nice
the
to have
dwarves of
this
Khazad-dûm, also known as Moria, lost the mithril ore due to the haste with which they mined it throughout the Second Age. This rapid depletion led to the accidental release of the sleeping Balrog, known as Durin's Bane, who destroyed Khazad-dûm and killed Durin VI. The surviving dwarfs were forced to flee their ancestral home, leading to the eventual downfall of their kingdom. The Balrog's destruction and subsequent mining practices have proven pivotal in shaping the lore of Middle-earth.
So,
So the dwarves got greedy and very uncautious. Now, one superpower that I really wish that I had was the ability to go on TV shows and be like, hey, in the future, your show, this is what's gonna happen.
Hey,
and
like, I mean,
so it would be like, be like going back in time and being like, hey, in the future, this is what's gonna happen. Because the character themselves don't know what's gonna happen, even though they're acting out a scene. They don't know what's gonna happen. It's like, hey, Galadriel,
and any item I can take in that TV show also go back to the real world with me. You know how much money people would pay for a lock of hair of Galadriel?
You know how much money people would pay if mithril was fucking real?
You know how many people would kill to have a gram of mithril?
Yo, did you know in Lord of the Rings they didn't have crack, cocaine, marijuana, etc.?
Yeah. You know, that's kind of I mean, it was a world made by the Lavatar, so why would he have something like that? That could affect his creation with make his creation more easy to be mastered by Sauron.
Yeah, but going back to the thing, don't so like I understand.
It is a fantasy, so it doesn't really matter.
Like, when you watch when did you stop on Rings of Power? Like after the first episode?
I think season 2.
So I need to actually finish watching it, but I stopped viewing the people as I stopped viewing skin color in the show because I know like yeah, it's not supposed to be in there. It's somewhat of a mockery token, but what if?
All right. Let me tell you a story of how I was in your shoe once. Back in the olden day, where Pi was still a young, stupid, and hello, Hybrid Absolute. Welcome to the stream. Talking to Shadow about Lord of the Rings while playing PoE.
I'm not playing PoE. I'm just over here in my fucking passive skill tree.
Screaming at Pi, explain to him how Lord of the Ring. Wait, no, Ring of Power is not something you should burn Amazon for. Anyway, back in the day, in Warhammer. All right. Now.
So, Rings of Power does not directly adapt a single book, but it is inspired by several works.
So it should be called fan fiction.
So it comes from the Similarian and the Epicidus Apodisus, fuck my English, of the Lord of the Rings, and the series explores Second Earth, but also drawing various sources such as the Unfinished Tales and the history of Middle Earth to flesh out its narrative. But Tolkien never wrote a book focusing on the events of the Second Age.
And I do not. All right. So this is one of those things. All right. I'm gonna go with this.
So it was an adaptation of a bunch of sources
Blasphemous.
that they picked out of. And they just like picked context out of, and then pretty much made a series from, which is why they have the diverse cultural background of things.
All right. Did you actually watch watch the interview of the showrunner?
No, because I didn't care about that shit because I knew
actually,
that
it actually gonna add more context to why they do the thing they do.
Yeah, because they wanted to be woke and they wanted to be assholes.
Yeah. Also, did you? Also, I also give you the link to the Tolkien Society. I want you to read some of the headline of that.
So apparently, Christopher Tolkien later confirmed this idea as the man who probably knew Tolkien the best, said that the Jacksons films eviscerated the book by making it into an action movie for young people aged 15 to 25.
Good.
And they said, if I'm right, in the assessment of the film series that won 17 Oscars total, including Best Pictures in 2003, Tolkien almost certainly would have been displeased with Lord of the Rings: The Ring of Power. To be fair, though, he would probably have disliked almost any adaptation of his work, and despite the changes and divinations made by Jackson's trilogy, the films were a gorgeous display of a cinematography and beautifully scripted scenes that brought a whole new generation of audiences back to the original stories, and myself included. I think as well that this new series, despite its own divination, can do the same. With that in mind, basically he says the series, let's take a look at what the series does with Tolkien's canological work, where it deviates, where it falls short, and where it ultimately succeeds. The biggest problem with the series is something that is likely to be the root of a number of adaptations. Tolkien never wrote a book focusing on the events of the Second Age, and the production doesn't have the rights to the book, in which he did write the most about it. The material written in the text and appendix. The Lord of the Rings, however, does give a surprisingly detailed account of number of events of the Second Age, and so what results in an interesting question of canonical material. What can we glean from Lord of the Rings about the Second Age, and how different from what we find in other sources? One of the differences posed by the adaptation is that it has decided to collapse thousands of years of Middle Earth history into a much smaller time frame than Tolkien allowed for. On one hand, it was done to prevent the lives of mortals from passing by like mayflies, while the elves remained unchanged, but that choice does come with corresponding problem of the compressing and the timeline of the Second Age, leading to confusion about the sequence of events and the impact of individual storylines on overall plot. Gilgalad has too much power and authority. Oh, that's the guy who fucking dies. So that's his ring gets given to Gandalf. Give me a second. I had to drink some water.
I have too, because Shadow is making me really mad at him.
Certainly, one of the most significant problems of the series when it comes to canon is the issue of Gil-galad's authority. Put it simple, Gil-galad would not have the power, ability, or the right to tell an elf to go to Valinor, aka the Land of Undying, or the right to or give them passage there. There was a gift from Valar that he had no authority to grant. Furthermore, the elves had already been given a chance to return to Valinor at the end of the First Age. Those who are still in Middle-earth at the point of the start of the series have decided to remain there and are clearly not burning with the desire to return to Valinor just yet. A few further issues, there's a fucking remove ad thingy, of Gil-galad's authority has to do with Arnor, Arnor's storyline. Gil-galad is a canonically the High King of Noldor, but not all elves are the Noldor. The elves and Tirhadrid, if any, seem to be Sylvian elves who would not be under Gil-galad's control. The separate groups of elves had separate power structures, so the idea of Gil-galad having authority over other groups of elves is a stretch of the imagination at least. The shows must make decisions for Tolkien. Another problem with adaptation in general is that in order to bring a product to the screen, the series needs to make decisions on areas in which Tolkien himself never came to an ultimate conclusion. One of these major points, for an instance, is the origin of the orc. Tolkien, in much of his writings, considered the possibility that the orcs were twisted elves but continually struggled with their origin and status of free will and their ultimate fate. Toward the end of his life, he seemed to have been moving away from the idea that orcs were corrupted elves, but that is a point of uncertainty that the show will probably be exploring. Anyways, second
So,
arc forward, he's
fan
the
fiction.
he's the
Fan fiction.
yeah, he's the father of the orcs. You know, he's basically, you know,
fan fiction.
He's basically, you know,
Worthless.
Giving the orcs, you know, a will of life.
No, that is all right.
He took them away from Sauron's control, which then gave them the ability to think for themselves and have families, etc., yada yada yada.
Was not written down, so pretty much fan fiction and conjecture and creation of evidence.
Well, you also have to look at it. There's not much knowledge of the Second Age. There is a lot of knowledge, but Tolkien never really focused on the Second Age. He focused a lot on the First Age, and then he wrote bits and pieces of it the Second Age and the Third Age adaptation. But the Second Age was, you know, hey, Middle Earth was created, a bunch of people lived there, Sauron, you know, his power, he came to rise in power, and then he decided to be defeated in the start of the Third Age, and then, you know, blah blah.
Which you should be thankful for, because you know why? Warhammer have the same unfortunateness. Do you know why the Primarch got scattered between the void in the Horus Heresy? I will explain. The Primarch was scattered because a fucking woman got so fifi that she threw the fucking demigod into the goddamn hell because she thought the Emperor is gonna make them into a war machine. That is why you should never allow a woman a position of power, because she literally threw children into the goddamn demon hellhole.
So, another narrative that is like shown with Galadriel, she is pretty much the Joan the Arc of the Second Age.
No, Joan the Arc never fight. She was there to raise the army and lift the spirit of the French people.
She was a
Never.
whore on a horseman. On a horse. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
The propaganda of the filthy Frenchman.
But one of the good things is Rings of Power succeeds in capturing the thematic elements of Tolkien's work.
Did they?
Yes.
No.
They
No. If you rewatch the Lord of the Ring in the Battle of the Three Kings, you would see that when the elves go to war, they have this appearance of highness, of purity, of being more than human, more than man. When you see those people, we see the elf in the movie, they seem like otherworldly being. With the show, they seem like people, not respectable people.
Look at the Hobbit series. You know, you got to see a whole bunch of new dynamics that weren't in the Lord of the Rings series, because they had to put CGI animation Orlando Bloom to make him 20 years younger. And at that time, Arwen, who is Aragon's wife, she was featured in that movie, and she was actually previously at that time in love with a dwarf who actually lost his. But another thing is the show, the Rings of Power shows the majesty of Middle Earth and its culture, from the kingdom of the Khazad Dûm, and then the reveal of Númenor.
The Númenorian who can barely fight against an elf, and they need her to teach the basic of sword fighting. Yeah, that is the unfortunate thing of really getting more lore is never actually a good thing. Getting more lore is like the unmaking of the mystery. Back in the olden day, when you heard about the Emperor of Mankind Warhammer, you thought of some cool, gigantic man who can do everything. He's a god. Wow. So he somehow got attacked and hurt. And then now you say
Black Elf. The Black Elf in Rings of Power is Nordred. He is a Sylvan elf who was born in Bitterland and spent many of his years in the seas. Why is he black though?
And why is he the only one there though? What happened to his mother, his father, his friend and colleague, another black elf? Did they get exterminated? Is he the only survivor of a genocide? Who knows?
Give me a second.
Hello, Element. you go in here and you just hear shadows just going on, and me about random things.
No, I'm actually kind of interested what y'all are talking about. That's why I went on mute to listen.
Yeah, the Ring of Power. Shadow's here thinking the Ring of Power actually adds something to the Tolkien lore, and me here just screaming at him on how could you? I thought you as a brother. How could you say such blasphemy?
What are y'all playing?
Path of Exile.
That's a poop.
Free game.
So Adar is the guy who, watches over the orcs. Who's the second Dark Lord? I forgot his name. I'm trying to find background history on Sylvan.
Sylvan.
Oh, look at this fucking ad that I got on this fandom.
Nice.
So
what are you playing, Element?
I actually don't know what to play.
Let's see. Abiotic is about to get an update, and Shadow want to play that.
So Sylvan elves are known as wood elves,
which I would assume they should be.
So they're known. They're known as nymphs of like Greek mythology and all that, but they're known as wood elves.
So green skin.
No, brown skin.
Green skin because they are always living under the canopy of trees. So there's no point for them to evolve or to have black skin because that would be less less sunlight.
They wouldn't have less sunlight
because they live under trees.